Appalling. Prince Charles said to have let his views be known on the government's Rwanda migrant plan. A newspaper has been told that Charles privately condemned the deportation flights. Clarence House insists the Prince remains politically neutral.
The Prince has, over the years, had very strongly held views, particularly on things where, it's to do with social issues.
The government's new food strategy condemned for failing to tackle obesity or rising food prices.
I can't smile on this side of my face.
Justin Bieber tells fans he has to cancel shows after a virus paralysed his face and... A right royal knees up plans to host Strictly Come Dancing at Buckingham Palace.
This is ITV News with Romilly Weeks.
Good evening. The government's plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda was already causing plenty of controversy, and now Prince Charles appears to have entered the debate. The Times is reporting that a source heard the Prince criticise the policy more than once, calling it appalling and making it clear he was not impressed. Clarence House insists he remains politically neutral, but he has been known to express strong views privately in the past. It comes after a court decided yesterday that the first Rwanda flight could go ahead next week. That ruling will be appealed on Monday. Sam Holder has this report.
Prince Charles hosting a reception this week to celebrate the upcoming Commonwealth Heads of State meeting. A trip that has taken on an uncomfortable political edge. Charles will land in Rwanda just days after the first Home Office flights are due, forcibly carrying asylum seekers to centres like this in the country. The government scheme has had plenty of critics. Now it appears the Prince of Wales is one of them. Sources have told The Times he described the policy as appalling and is concerned the controversy will overshadow his visit.
I think it's well known that the Prince has, over the years, had very strongly held views, particularly on things where, it's to do with social issues. And while, his aides are very keen to stress that he hasn't tried to influence government policy on this, I think, like any other human being, the Prince of Wales holds opinions.
Clarence House has refused to comment on what it describes as private conversations, adding that Prince Charles remains politically neutral. The government believes the policy will help deter asylum seekers crossing the Channel. Yesterday, the High Court ruled the first flight can go ahead on Tuesday. Among the refugees facing deportation is an Iranian policeman being held at a detention centre who refused to shoot at protesters. This was his reaction, told through a translator.
Why is that? What's the reason for that? Is this how the human rights works in this country? It's just unacceptable.
The decision is being challenged at the Court of Appeal on Monday. The UN Refugee Agency is providing evidence against the government.
UNHCR's position is that this arrangement does not comply with international law, that asylum seekers accordingly should not be forcibly transferred to Rwanda. And so we are seeking to assist the court in making that determination.
So far, the controversial scheme doesn't appear to have acted as much of a deterrent. Thousands have still crossed. Sam Holder, ITV News.
A new food strategy for England is to be launched on Monday, but a leaked draft appears to show many of the recommendations made by a major review are not being acted upon. A proposed tax on foods with high sugar and salt is missing, as are any concrete measures to help the environment. Labour have called the plan vague and bordering on the preposterous. Catherine Sampson reports.
Out to charm farmers. The Prime Minister making a surprise appearance at the Royal Cornwall Show yesterday, ahead of the first national food strategy for England in 75 years. It's due on Monday, but a leaked copy suggests some ingredients will be missing. It appears there'll be no plans to reduce dairy or meat consumption to help the environment, and that the idea of taxing foods high in sugar and salt will be formally binned. Both key recommendations in an independent report commissioned by the government.
Well, I think it's a very sad day for the UK because it means that the UK is going to become more and more obese, get more and more type 2 diabetes, more cancer, more heart disease, and more strokes. And it's sad that the government's not prepared to take a proper stand and do something about it.
Waistlines may be growing, but many people's bank balances are not. The strategy talks about individual responsibility on food choices. We asked shoppers at this market, should the government intervene more?
I'm supportive, actually. I think from a sort of public health perspective, we need to be healthier as a nation.
It's up to people how you eat, because now everything's expensive.
There is an aim to boost homegrown fruit and veg production.
To be growing more of our fruit and veg is a laudable ambition. There's a strong focus on procurement and making sure that we've got more British, more local going into our schools and hospitals, military, and so on. So yes, there are definitely areas that I am very supportive of.
There's no commitment to expand free school meals in England. The document says this is under review. With the issue of food poverty rising up the agenda, Labour's branded the plans too vague. Ministers say they're ambitious, but won't talk more about them until they're published on Monday. Catherine Sampson, ITV News.
The Ministry of Defence says intense street-to-street fighting is taking place in the key Ukrainian city of Severodonetsk. Russian forces are also shelling indiscriminately, but do not appear to be making much progress. Both sides are said to be suffering high numbers of casualties. Here, the family of captured Briton Sean Pinner have said they're devastated and saddened by the death sentence handed down to him by Russian-backed separatists. They condemned it as a show trial and called for his release. And President Zelensky has addressed students at several British universities by video link. He said the treatment of the two captured Britons should act as a warning.
The Russian Federation is acting this way against any citizen, any country. This is not only the attitude towards our citizens, this attitude is basically towards anyone. That's what they do. And so it seems to me that after such cases, the countries of Europe must eventually unite, act powerfully and condemn by action, not by words.
The singer Justin Bieber has revealed he's suffering from a partial paralysis of his face, which has forced him to cancel a series of concerts. The Canadian pop star showed his fans the symptoms of Ramsay-Hunt syndrome in a social media post. Callum Watkinson has more.
As you can see, this eye is not blinking. I can't smile on this side of my face.
Justin Bieber's North American tour, like his smile, is on hold after a reactivated shingles virus attacked his facial nerves, a condition known as Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. Nicoya Riscola from Cornwall developed the same condition in October 2020. She says facial paralysis may not be the worst challenge Justin now faces.
With Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, you can get other symptoms like vertigo, pain, balance issues, hearing loss. So personally, I wouldn't be able to do it. I can't leave the house. I wouldn't be able to do any tours.
Ramsay-Hunt syndrome is often misdiagnosed as Bell's palsy, a potentially dangerous mistake because the treatments for each are different.
I hear a lot about sinners.
Justin Bieber has also suffered with Lyme disease and glandular fever in the past, which doctors say may have left his immune system in a weakened state.
We do see that those who are at higher risk of infections, particularly viral infections, it may indicate an underlying issue with the immune system. Many factors can be involved here, both obviously one's genes, one's diet.
So there's full paralysis in this side of my face.
British fans are hoping UK tour dates in February won't be affected, but Nicoya Riscola's recovery has taken 20 months so far. Callum Watkinson, ITV News.
Brazilian police have reportedly found possible human remains in the search for a British journalist who went missing in the Amazon. Dom Phillips and Brazilian indigenous expert Bruno Pereira have been missing since last Sunday. Police said experts will analyse the remains found in a river in the remote rainforest. A man has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a 15-year-old boy was stabbed to death in Manchester on Thursday. The teenager's mother, who sustained serious stab wounds during the attack, remains in hospital. And criminal barristers in England and Wales are being balloted from today on plans to strike over cuts to legal aid rates. The Criminal Bar Association says some barristers now earn less than the minimum wage. The British Soap Awards are back after a 2-year absence due to the COVID pandemic. The glitz and glam is in full swing, with stars from the UK's most loved soaps gathering in the hopes of bagging some of the night's coveted awards. And Helen Keenan is on the red carpet in East London where the awards are taking place. Helen, it sounds very noisy down there. Who have you seen so far?
It certainly is. As you can see, it's a packed red carpet. Some of the biggest faces from all 5 soaps are here for the British Soap Awards. It's one of the most glamorous, the most star-studded events, I suppose, in that soap calendar. And the British Soap Awards, well, look, they're never a dull affair, are they? But there's so much more excitement here tonight. Obviously, they've been off air for 2 years because of the pandemic, so you can almost feel that excitement. So lots of awards up tonight. So let's get into some of that detail, shall we? Front runners, EastEnders and Emmerdale, they lead the nominations with 13 each. That's followed by Coronation Street with 12 and Hollyoaks with 11, Doctors with 9. And they will all, of course, be going head-to-head for that most coveted award, the Best British Soap. Now, there's also something new for this year, Best Leading Performer. That replaces Best Actor and Actress. Now, I'm very pleased to say I'm here with a very famous face that lots of people will know, every Coronation Street fan, Jenny here. Or that's what we all know you as, don't you? But actually, Sally Ann Matthews. Hiya.
It's great to be here.
Are you having a good time?
It's great to dress up and get out the house and have a glass of fizz.
And you're nominated as well, aren't you?
We're nominated, is it Best Exit? Best... So is there
I think the Scene of the Year.
Oh, that's the one. It just so happened that my on-screen husband died in that.
And everyone knows you, don't they? You've been off the covers for years. What's some of your favourites?
I have to say, I think the week that we did down a sinkhole in a storm drain was incredible. I think also because we'd had all these 2 metre restrictions, it was brilliant. Tonight was great night.
And we'll be able to see who wins, hopefully you, at 8 o'clock tonight on ITV.
Helen, thanks very much for that. England's cricketers had a tough day in the field in the second test against New Zealand at Trent Bridge. The tourists piled up a score of 553, their highest ever test score in England. Chris Scudder was watching.
First lesson on a good pitch: when you win the toss, bat first. England didn't do that and paid the price, with Daryl Mitchell scoring a second successive Test 100. Second lesson: don't drop your catches. Matthew Potts, in only his second test for England, let a simple one slip through his fingers.
Grasping at thin air.
Mitchell and Tom Blundell both made centuries.
And 100 it is for Tom Blundell. Terrific innings.
He fell soon afterwards for 106.
Stokes it is, and England needed that.
But Mitchell was imperious, blasting his way to his highest test score of 190. By the time he was last out, New Zealand had their highest ever test score in England. And England made a rocky start in reply. Zach Crawley out cheaply. It's a long way back from here. Chris Scudder, ITV News.
Finally, there are reports tonight that the next series of Strictly Come Dancing could feature a special episode filmed inside Buckingham Palace. The Sun is reporting that the Queen has given her consent for the quarter or semi-finals to be held in the Palace Ballroom later this year. It's even been suggested that Charles and Camilla could take to the dance floor themselves during the programme. The royal couple are fans of the show and never miss an episode, according to host Tess Daly. Well, that should be worth a watch. And that is it. I'm back with the news at 10. Until then, good evening.